Hey, what's the crack? This is Oliver Keane Motion Design, and today we're going to explore the timeline inside of After Effects. So first things first, we're going to come down here and click on our timeline. So our timeline panel right down here. I've already comp set up from our last session saying my first comp, and what we're going to do is we're going to start adding layers to this so I can start running through all the options in the timeline and like things that you'll need to know as a beginner. First of all, I'm going to add a solid layer, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's just a solid layer, a color layer that we can move around and play around with and have this on the timeline as our first layer. So that's the first layer I'm going to show you. So like I said, if you click on the timeline here and come up here to layer, so this is where you're going to find all your layers, and go new, and we're going to add a solid. So you click solid. So this is the same size as my comp that I want, but if you change the top one to 500 and you actually want to get it back to the comp size instead of that 500, so if you click this button, make comp size, it'll make it the same size as your composition window right here. And you can just change the color as well. If you come down here, I'm just going to make it red. And you can also color pick it as well. So if you press OK, straight away what you'll see is we have our first red solid added to our timeline right down here. So this is our first layer. It's great. Have our very first layer. It's amazing. And also what happens when you generate a solid, it actually adds it to the project panel up here on our left. So if you click down here, you'll see our red solid right there. That's just basically where it's storing that red solid, so nice and easy. I'm going to run through the project panel in another session so I can give you more detail and so on, but first we're going to explore the timeline. Like I said, come down here and click on the timeline. You know when the timeline is highlighted when there's a blue line around it. So cool, this is our first layer right here, and you can see it's a red solid, okay? And what I want to show you first is how to kind of set up like just a sequence in our timeline with different colors, just with background solids. I'm actually going to trim this, and I'm going to go through these little options here as well so we know what we're going to do. So first of all, what you see in the timeline is your little time indicator. So this is like, you can scrub through your whole animation, and you can see it's changing here on your units or your seconds here, and your seconds up here in the composition window. But this is really handy because you can just scroll through your animation and what you want, and to play the timeline as well as you press spacebar. I know there's nothing happening right now, but that's how you actually play through your animation of the 10 seconds we have right here. Or you can come up here to the preview window as well and click it down and press play. But you can see here you can use a shortcut. I have minus spacebar. You can change it to whatever you want, but I like to use spacebar because that's the main one that is actually used. So if your spacebar plays your time indicator. Yeah, there's no animation in here, so what I'm going to do is duplicate this solid a few times and actually just set up a sequence so we can go through every single one. So what I'll do right away is come here, okay, to your layer, so click it, and if we scroll to 10 frames, okay, and what I encourage as well, while you're scrolling, if you hold down shift, it'll snap to areas. See, it's snapping there. But if you just don't hold down shift, it'll be it's quite loose, but if you hold down shift, it kind of slows it down, so it's handy. So if we come here, okay, and what I'm going to do is come to the end of this solid, and if you click and drag all the way back to here, see it's gone black, but you can see now that's where your solid is. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this a bunch of times. You come here and click on the red solid and press Control D or Command D if you're on a Mac, it'll duplicate it. And what I want to do is change the color of this. So if you come up here to layer and go solid settings, you can change to whatever color you want. So I'm just going to go blue, okay, and then so you can see it changes the name as well, so it's really handy. And then I'm going to duplicate this one again, so Command D or Control D, and I'm going to change then this to green. So if you come up here to solid settings, so layer solid settings, and make this a green one, say, or a lime or whatever color you want, you know. See, when you start changing color as well, it changes the name down here, so it's quite handy for colors. So I'm just going to keep it there at deep lime green, is probably going to be called, and press new. When you press new, it's just the same thing as saying okay. So we have 3 different colors on here, you know, we have red, blue, green. So RGB. So RGB, red, blue, green. So it's easy. So we have 3 layers here. You can move layers as well if you click one and just drag it underneath, as you can see. So I'm just going to keep it red, green, blue. So RGB. And what I'm going to do is, like, when you play right now, so you go straight to black. I don't really want it to go to black, of course. I want to sequence these layers. So a good way to do that is just like if you click that one and just drag it over to like your endpoint of here, and then the same thing with this one. If you click this one and then drag it over to the end, and then when you scrub through, so you'll go to different colors. Okay, so if we play that with spacebar, it'll play just through different colors. I'm showing you this way because it's just the basics of showing you the timeline. So we have 3 colors just going, you know, from red, green to blue. Okay, and what I want to do is kind of make this loop as well. So it's a good trick to do this. Okay, what I normally do is press N, the letter N for like new. So N, it'll crop your region, your time ruler region. So then you can basically, if you press spacebar now, it'll continually, you know, loop. So yeah, that's like really easy. Like you can see there, it's like basically our first animation, you know, by just using solids. And with solids, they're very, very limited. So if we click on this red one, the first one we made, and drop it down, you only have transforms in here. You only have the transform abilities, and you can keyframe these and it's really good, but I'm going to go into animating with keyframes in the next few sessions, so I'm not going to jump on that right now, but I'm just going to show you like just the values, what you get from a solid. So a solid you can move to position, and this one, see, over if you want. So if you move that one over by clicking and dragging, and then if you press play again, see, it'll, you know, show your animation that way. So basically you can move it, you can scale it down if you wanted, say something like that, and then see, it'll come back here. And then what if you do that with each one of these? So if I click on the green and go transform and make its position over to the left, scale that a bit, and then move its position up, see, like right there. Okay, and what's that gonna like when we play it? See, you get, you know, just a bit of variety in the shapes and like where it's placed. But this is just doing with solid colors, you know. And then we'll just do the blue as well. So if you come down here, go transform, and then I'm gonna pull down this position here, and I'm gonna scale it so it's at the end. See? So now if we play that back, we get, see, 3 different like shapes, just like going around almost like a video already, just with solid colors. So solids are quite limiting, and we can move this up as well by clicking in here. Are quite limited because there's not much like values and stuff, but I'm going to show you shape layers after this video. Shape layers are just a bit more dynamic, and they have a lot more options, and you can play with them really quickly. So right now I'm just going to press the up arrow, or the arrow on that one, arrow on that one, and arrow on that one to collapse these. And you can see if you press spacebar again, it plays through your animation. So what if we just want to trim this timeline to 1 second and having it the whole way, and I don't want any of this like extra, you know, work area end in front? What you can do is come up here to composition and trim to work area. So if you click trim to work area, it'll just trim it to that, so then you don't have the rest of the timeline that you don't need. So why I'm showing you this way is because these are 3 different color solids, but you can make a complex animation quite quickly, you know. This, I know it's not complex, but it's like just a really cool like shape animation or so on. So also I'm going to show you the other areas of the timeline as well. So right here you can lock your layers. So with this button here, if I click the lock button, you can lock this. And if I want to move this blue, so if I go all the way to the end, if I want to move this blue around, I can't, see? So you actually can lock your layers, so it's really handy. And you can also solo your layers as well. So solo means, so if I drag this blue on top of this green, I only want to see the blue color, you can solo it by, you know, clicking this little dot right here. So it's really handy. And if you had footage in here, you can actually turn off the sound on it here by clicking that. And then also you have the visibility as well. So if you click the little eye, it turns on and off your layer. It's really, really good. And all these other layers, these are for more kind of advanced techniques that I'm going to show later, so I don't really want to show this right now, but I'm going to show you more of this when we get to it. But I just want to show you the basics of the timeline and basically what you can do with it. So if you just play back there now, you can see it's playing away. But also if you want to zoom into areas of your timeline as well, see this little guy down here? If you click on that and move it in, you can actually zoom into your timeline, you know, so it's just a good way of doing it. Also in the timeline, what you can see is there's all these different buttons as well. So these little buttons are basically just for how much you can view in your timeline, so your area right here. So if you click this one here, and expands it more, and it gives you like your track mats and then you click this one, it gives you your in and out time and duration and your time stretch. I normally just keep it with this one on, so if you don't see any of these options that you see in mine, if you just click these ones you can see them all. I normally keep this one on so we can see like the layer switches right here, but you can actually turn that off if you want. You get a more simplified version. And then all these other options up here I'm going to show you in later parts, but I just really wanted to show you the timeline, how you play through your animation. So you press space bar and set up some solids, and basically you can animate stuff really quickly. This is how you basically trim your animation, by coming in here and clicking on like this section and moving this back and forward. And then if you like stack them on top of each other in a sequence, it works really, really well. So what if we don't want to do manually, you know, like move these over themselves? So I'm going to move these back. Move that one back and move this one back, okay? And what if I want to sequence these really quickly? There's actually a really easy way of doing that. So if we click on the red solid below and hold down shift and click the top one, it'll highlight them all. And if you come here to animation and go keyframe assistant and come down here to sequence layers, it'll actually sequence them for you. You can do overlap if you want, you can do whatever you want, but if you press OK, it actually sequences the layer for you. See? Easy peasy. So there's our first little animation using just solids. So in the next session I'm going to show you how to use shape layers and go from there. So see you guys in that next tutorial, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye bye.